This is the M24 Chaffee. It was a light tank used by the US Armed Forces, beginning use in the European front in late autumn 1944 during the Second World War, where the first US ground forces received the first batches of Chaffees which saw combat through the war and after. Well, you might be asking, why was it made? Well, it was made to replace the growing obsolete modernized 1930s M3 and M5 Stuarts. Even though they proved reliable, fast and maneuverable for recon assignments, the tank by all means was frankly very outdated. It was like very tall with a very pathetic 37mm cannon. Armor is so thin, if you tell it a joke, it would pretty much just implode on itself. Alright, let's stop insulting the M3 Stuart. We're here to talk about the M24 Chaffee. So let's get back to it. After the short service life in the Second World War, it went on to serve in the Korean War and was allegedly lasting the Ingo-Pakistani War. And that's out of the way. Let's talk about how it was born. In 1941, the army began designing a successor to the Stuart light tanks called the T7, which was later renamed to the medium tank M7. It was first armed with a 7mm cannon, but it was later changed to a 5mm cannon, which significantly increased its weight. This created an identity crisis over whether it should become a light tank or a medium tank. Only 7 prototypes were ever built of the T7 design, before the project was ultimately cancelled in 1943. During the North African campaign, the British were still using Stuarts, but they reported that the 7mm cannon was ineffective and outdated. They called for a new light tank armed with a 5mm cannon. Some early designs followed a Firefly-style concept by simply fitting the 5mm cannon into the M5 Stuart turret. While this technically was feasible, many internal components had to be removed just to fit the gun itself. Most of the machine guns were also removed just so they could accommodate the large 5mm cannon. And US, being the US, were addicted to the 50 caliber machine guns, rejecting the design with a 5mm cannon. In the end, the upgun Stuart went nowhere. In March of 1943, the Ordnance Department authorized development of a new light tank designated the T-24. A month later, on the 29th of April, the Army approved the design of the T-24 and assigned it to the Cadillac Motor Car Company of General Motors to develop the prototype. To speed up production, Cadillac used the chassis of a howitzer motor carriage as the basis of the hull. They sloped the armor for better protection, keeping the weight of the tank within acceptable limits. The T-24 also used a large 3-man turret to mount the 5mm cannon, giving its layout similar to a M5 Stuart. A new torsion spar suspension system replaced the old vertical volatile system found on the M5, giving the new tank a smoother ride and a more stable gun platform. The designers also added wider tracks to reduce ground pressure and improve cross-country mobility. The T-24 was also powered by the same twin Cadillac Series 42 V8 gasoline engines used in the Stuart, but Cadillac installed an improved transmission on it so that it could have a better acceleration. Oh yeah, fun fact, the 5mm cannon used on the T-24 was adapted from a B-25 Mitchell. It fired the same ammunition as the M4 Sherman, which fired AP, HE and smoke and many more other shells. But they used a different recoil system to handle the gun's recoil. The first prototype underwent trials and had some issues at the start, but the Army was pretty much satisfied with the overall tank design. A second prototype was then sent for testing, and further modifications were requested. The T-24 was officially called the M24 Chaffee. The name Chaffee was honored from Major General Anda R. Chaffee, Jr., known as the father of Armored Force. Initially, the Army ordered over 1,000 of Chaffees, but the order was later increased to 5,000. Production of the M24 began in April 1944, though larger numbers were only produced in June after the M5A1 Stuart production ended in May. In addition to Cadillac, the Army selected a second manufacturer, Marius Harris, to build the M24 also. A total of 4,731 tanks were produced before manufacturing ended in August of 1945. If you were to ask me how I would describe the M24, I would say it's a small, fast Sherman without its bulky armor. As mentioned earlier on, its main gun was a 5mm cannon adapted from a P-25 bomber, firing the same ammunition as the Sherman. It was capable of firing AP, APCBC, HE and smoke shells. The tank was also armed with an M2 Browning 50 caliber machine gun on the roof, a coaxial 7.62 machine gun and a 2-inch mortar launcher. Originally it had a crew of 4, a bow gunner, driver, gunner and a commander. However, this proved inefficient because the bow gunner often had to act as a loader, so a dedicated was later added to the crew roster. The Chaffee was sent to the front lines in late autumn 1944. Interestingly, 18 tanks were sent to the 744 Tank Battalion and 2 to the 740 during the chaotic fight of the Battle of Bulge. Well, the crews loved the Chaffee for its speed and versatility across all the different terrains they were going on. Some even thought it looked similar to the German Panther. I mean, I don't know how, but anyways, it earned the nickname Panther Pup. After the Second World War, many variants were developed, largely because chassis was so reliable. It was converted to a self-propelled howitzer and exported to many other Allied nations. It was allegedly seen in the Pakistani-Indo War. So that's a Chaffee in real life, a reliable and capable light tank the US produced. But in War Thunder, let's just say it's superb. I love the tank. Thanks to its excellent mobility and a powerful 75mm cannon, it remains highly effective and is very easy to play. I have personally updated it many times and it still performs very well. In War Thunder, it's best well as a sneaky, fast, ratty tank and it's one of my favorite tanks in the war game. So yeah, I'm sorry for the video taking almost a whole bloody month to make because I've been a bit, school has been a bit nightmarish, so yeah, I pretty much didn't have any time to edit or do anything with the video. So yeah, sorry for the late video, but I promise another video will come out maybe this week or next week, let's see. Anyways, the video will most likely be gameplay on some of my favorite tanks, or maybe I will do a challenge for once, I guess. Anyways, hope to see you again, bye.